Okay, so today I'm going to discuss the skills that I developed and learned when using Photoshop to produce my film poster for Underhand and also our magazine front cover for Sight and Sound. So firstly, a skill I developed was importing images. So before I was used to just working with the one image. However, you can see here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 separate images including in the poster. So for this, I would literally open Finder, dragging the image I wanted, and this is the smoke we use, and then just resize it, move it about so I could get it where I wanted, and that's how I imported those images. I then had to adjust the opacity levels for each image so that you could see the background of the city. And then the foreground images all blending into that city, so not one particularly stood out, they blending in together. The only image we kind of wanted to stand out a bit more was the smoke. You see the opacity levels have been adjusted, but not as much as the others, so it stands out a little bit more than those other images. And here it is, so it was only 72% we reduced that. Another skill that I developed was downloading fonts, so you can see that we use different fonts for each of our texts. And we downloaded those from default. There was various ones we used, and this was just to create a more professional look for our film poster, and that it represented a real media text. So you downloaded the font, it will go into a file down here, and then you will simply just open the file, click download, and then it would appear on your text font options that come up here. And then speaking about text, a skill that I learned was taking this text that I had here, and then copying it, so we're duplicating it, and then rotating the text around, separating them, and then reducing the opacity of the one below it, and so that it created this mirror effect. And we decided to do that because that's a conventional neo-noir of reflections, and that symbolised that. And then another skill that I learned to do was masking. So for our film poster here, I masked the end of the cigarette. Here you can see we created that mask. And that was to separate that tip, so then I can increase that opacity, as if I take it away, you can see that you can't see the cigarette that much. So what we did is we literally got a mask, circled it around the end of the tip, so that then that could then separate, and we then had two separate masks. You can see the second mask there, and for that one we could increase the opacity so you could see it more clearly, but it didn't affect the rest of the image, as we still wanted her face and her hand to be the same levels as it was. Moving on, when we added this layer of smoke, I learnt to use the blending options, and this one we use multiply, and that was just to make sure, because previously it had a black background, that disappeared, and you could just distinguish the smoke, because that is all we wanted in the image. But we wanted to keep that sense of colour, but we did reduce that colour when we decrease the opacity, so it still fits in with our black and white theme, which is a conventional noir, but then to represent that it was a neo-noir, we wanted a hint of colour, and that's how we kept that. Moving on, looking at my our magazine front cover, I used all of the same skills I just discussed in the film poster, but something we did a little bit separately was we masked areas, or selected like rectangles. In this area you can see where it's slightly darker, and this brighter area, and this was to adjust those. So if I choose on this one and take it away, that was to do with the smoke, and that was heightening that. So all we did was we selected that area and heightened it so that was more clear, and added a layer. For this one you can see down here, it goes slightly darker when I take away the rectangle, and we wanted it increase the brightness, and that was simply because when it was like that, the S ever so slightly blending in with the tie, so by just increasing that brightness it made it stand out a little bit more, and it was a lot easier to read. And there's also one more. We use the colour fill here. You can see that makes a massive difference, and that was just because we wanted to emphasise the side of darkness. It created a bit more of a dramatic and authentic look, and all fitting in with our neo-noir genre. As you can now only see really half of his face clearly, and it's given that sense of hidden identity, and we just use colour fill for that. Then another skill is just adding in text that we produce elsewhere. So this Sight and Sound was produced on its own, and we just imported that, the logo, together, adjusted it and measured it up against the other images that were already there and the template we had, meaning that the sides of the page, just so it all fits together and all aligned. We did that for several of them: the BFI, the Every New Film, the barcode, the white block up here, and then we just adjusted the font how we wanted. For this one we added in the red colour ourselves, the circle. And yeah, the last skill that I developed when editing this, or more that I learned, was adjusting the black and white levels. So we just wanted to create a higher contrast on his face. You can see it's a little bit brighter, but the wall behind him is a lot darker, and we just played around with those, again using Jenkins' skill, just experimented with different ones until we found one that we thought looked the most effective. So with the poster, just to clarify, this was something that I produced with Alice, a member of my group, and we worked on that together. With the magazine front cover, our group members Rory and Josh worked on the final edit of this, but we all put in our ideas and we all got a chance to experiment with the looks and how we wanted it, and we all got an opportunity to use the skills that I've spoken about. And that is how I learned and developed my skills in Photoshop. So thank you for listening. Goodbye.